What's up, YouTube? Making some corded necklaces and thought I would do a quick video over the process. I know I've included this in the end of one or two of my tutorials, but I just wanted to make a standalone video just because sometimes you might just have something that's already wrapped and you would just like to make a corded necklace for it. So I'll just show you what I do, or have been doing lately. And I use let's see, 2mm cord typically. I get cord from Tandy Leather. They have a pretty good quality cord. Most craft stores will have something that's decent, like Michael's or Joann's or whatever, whatever your local spot is. If you don't have one, just maybe look into getting something around 2mm seems to be what I use the most. And this is what it looks like. And for the hardware, I typically have been using 16 gauge wire, dead soft, to make my jump rings, like this one. And they're typically around 1/4 inch or 3/8 of an inch. And I just use my jump ring pliers. You can also use your round pliers. Just wrap the wire around the biggest part of the plier. I'll do either one, just depending on what size I need. You could also just use a wooden dowel, which I do this too if I'm gonna make, if I want to wrap a couple inches worth of jump rings around a dowel rod, then I'll have a coil like this one just sitting around for whatever I want to use it for. And if I'm just needing like 2 or 3 jump rings, I'll just use my flush cut pliers and I'll just cut the jump ring off the end and bend it flush, and it seems to work pretty well. But anyway, for my cord length, I'll use about 24 to 26 inches, and that includes about 1 inch of lost material in the end when you loop it over like this. So anyway, we'll get right into it. I need to make a copper one, so we'll do the copper version here. I do this in copper and silver filled wire, and I use 20 gauge half round for this part here. I take about a 3-inch long strip of half round, fold the wire over at the end, or fold the cord over, about 1 inch long. A little bit more is fine, but whatever your taste is. Now this is just one method. There's many other ways to do this, but I like this one because I feel like the cord, it gives a strong hold without being too much. And my biggest fear is things just coming undone. So all I'm doing is taking the half round and wrapping it around the joint right there. And what I'll do is I'll leave about 3/4 of an inch hanging off as a tail at the beginning, and then the same thing at the end. Just however many loops you can make it. Do at least 4 plus, more the better. And then we'll have a little tail, and we'll try to hide the tail and close it up. So I try to keep this tight as I'm going. Keep everything flat because it wants to twist around itself. So you kind of have to fight that a little bit, but you can do it. And if it's your first time, maybe leave a little bit larger tail, maybe 1 inch long, just so you have a little bit of slack to work with. And I'll take that tail and I'll wrap it underneath the main cord, because I feel like it would be less secure on the little cut tail. So I usually get about maybe 2 or 3 wraps with that tail, and then I try to cut it and tuck it. Now I'm sure I'll continue to make cords and make changes to how I do them, but this has been my go-to for a few months now, and I really like the look of it and how it works. If you don't care for the look of this thing, you just have to remember, it goes behind the person's head on the back of their neck, and once it's on you, it doesn't look like much, Whereas looking at it like this or looking at both ends together, you might think that that's a lot going on, but really it's really not that big a deal. It's hardly noticeable. I wear a couple different ones, and I don't think much about it at all as far as how much copper I got going on back there. So anyway, I missed making video last week. I've been just busy and didn't do it. So I'm trying to catch up this week and get something out. Try to do one every week if I can, but it's tough sometimes. Just the amount of editing that needs to be done. I could make a video, but if I don't have enough time to go over it two or three times, it just gets a little tough. So I apologize for not making that out. And what I do after I've tucked that tail is I'll go over this and work it a couple times from each side to keep it flat and to kind of work harden it a little bit. And you want to test it, make sure your tail won't pull through. Now you pull hard enough, it's going to come through, but you pull hard enough on anything and it's going to come off. So we just want it to be secured. It's not going to hold up a human being. I think most necklaces are designed to give a little bit because you don't want to have a necklace on that could, if you fell down and got caught on something, it could strangle you. I think that's the general thought process in making necklaces, is they need to break with, just a few pounds of force. So with that in mind, you don't want it to be, chain links around your neck with a padlock, so that wouldn't be very safe, I don't think. Okay, so doing the other side, keeping it flat, twisting it around. And there's about the amount that I like to have. Hopefully you guys can see all this. Still haven't found the perfect camera setup, but I say that every time. But I've been brainstorming some different ideas. For my next long tutorial, I'll try something a little bit better. So don't worry, Carrie. I know you're out there watching. Get something straightened out. Okay, now we tuck that in. Now I'm doing this kind of quick, just because the camera does affect things sometimes. So it's like I'm performing like a monkey. So there's that. And there we have it. Tuck that in. If you really want to carefully cut and tuck your tails on the inside of the loop and the inside of the cord, that would be ideal. I'm kind of right on the edge of that, so not a huge deal to me right now, but just so you can kind of see. Alright, and then on one of these I usually just use a jump ring, which I've already pre-cut, and this is a 1/4 inch or 3/8, I think it's a 1/4 inch jump ring, but either one works for me. You can go bigger, smaller, whatever you like, whatever your taste is. Jump ring on one side. Give you a close-up. And on the other side, we're going to make a clasp. And I'm going to use some heavier gauge copper for that. I usually use 16 gauge. I really love this lately for hardware. It feels like something substantial going on. And with your jump rings and your clasp, you really want to consider work hardening things as you go, just to kind of give the hardware a little bit more resilience than just being dead soft. So something to consider. So I'm going to use my round nose pliers. The first bend I do will be the larger circle, which is going to be big enough to go around the cord. So I'm going to use the large end of the plier to do that. And I'll just bend it back until it meets itself. And that's that. Then I'll usually cut it free. I know I wasted a little bit of wire doing it this way, but when you're too lazy to make notes of how long wire needs to be, these are the prices you pay. So anyway, I'm going to use my baling pliers. You could use a dowel rod for this. Just you want to have something round to kind of bend against, just to get a consistent result. So that's the direction of things at the moment. And we're going to bend the clasp shape around the baling plier. And just use my finger. And that's generally the shape you want to go for. Trying to decide where I want this to end. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut the tail off of here. So it looks like this. Then I'm just going to bend this little tail away so I don't have a straight edge. Now this is kind of hard on my pliers because these are tiny, ridiculously small glitter pliers. So you gotta get a pretty good grip on them. And bend that back. And since we've done most of the forming with the baling plier, you can do a little bit of tweaking with your fingers and everything's gonna stay nice and round. And you want this closed pretty close, you know, almost to where it would just kind of snap in the other jump ring. So, but this is generally the idea. Sometimes I'll do a little bit tighter curl, but not the end of the world. Now we'll use my little jeweler's anvil and this tiny ball peen, just tiny little guy, and I'll just kind of gently tap on it around the areas where it might bend. This also gives it a little bit of a fun texture to people that really pay close attention and look at it. It'll have a slight flattened look to it, which I think is cool. I'm not going to go all the way down to this bottom loop because that's going to go around the cord, and I don't feel like the cord is in much danger of coming off because it's a thick cord. It's not going to slip out. So go ahead and get this on the other end. Opened up the bottom of the hook, put the loop in, close it up, and it closed pretty good and flat, so that works pretty well. If you need to do any more tweaking on it, you can. You could even work hard on this little loop a little bit after it's installed, but I don't like to bend it too much after I've work hardened it. But that's just I didn't even realize I did that until I'm describing it to you guys. So that's it. You can get this into some pretty small areas, like on the bail of this little guy. You just work the hook through and then pull the cord through, and you'd be surprised the places you can get it to fit. So I haven't had many issues with that, and I have a pretty wide variety of bails. But anyway, one last note before the video is over. I'm running a sale on my Etsy. If you are interested in owning a piece of my work, I don't do sales very often, but I thought I would do one this week. And please check it out. I'll have a link in the description, and just a lot of different pendants. If you're in the US, it's free shipping. So check it out, and thank you guys for watching as always.